The Offshore Leaks project began more than a year ago when Gerard Ryle from the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists based in Washington obtained a hard drive which contained an enormous amount of leaked data, 200 gigabytes. This contained the internal files of a number of incorporation agencies, mainly in the BVI, the British Virgin Islands. And what these did was they provided clues, after a great deal of journalistic work, to the real identities of the people who were the secret owners of literally hundreds of thousands of offshore companies. And the reason these people own their companies in secret is because they are trying to hide the source of their wealth from other people, from tax authorities, or from their ex-wives, or from people for whom they have stolen the money. Well, the extraordinary thing about this material was it revealed that something like individuals from something like 170 countries had been buying secret offshore companies. And that meant that we needed journalists from many other countries, from cross-border, to research this stuff. And in the end, there were 86 journalists from 40 countries involved in checking out this data. We had hoped that the data would be like a treasure chest, and you could just open the treasure chest and out would come the names of famous people with their secret companies. In fact, it turned out to be much more difficult and complicated work. The data was very unstructured as well as being huge. It was all kinds of different things, you know, emails from 15 years back or scanned copies of passports. And in there were not facts, not revelations, but clues. And then you could follow up the clues and you could discover that a name belonged to somebody important in a remote country, and you'd suddenly identify the finance minister of Mongolia, say, as holding a secret BVI company. And those moments were like occasional but extraordinarily illuminating. What surprised us most was to find the names of politically important people like the Prime Minister of Georgia, as well as the Finance Minister of Mongolia. We found a key aide to the President of France had a BVI company. And you had, of course, the famous Russian oligarchs and oligarchs from Kazakhstan and places in the post-Soviet regimes, people like Mukhtar Ablyazov, for example, from Kazakhstan, who is currently in flight from justice. You had people who ranged all the way from top political figures like that, all the way down to very ordinary people who were like buying properties in London, building up little property empires and not paying tax on them by using offshore companies. And what was astonishing was the sheer range of people across the world who were exploiting offshore secrecy. The main question for us was actually about authenticity. Was this stuff genuine? And we became satisfied very quickly that it was completely authentic. There are other questions which we always ask ourselves on a newspaper like The Guardian. Did we steal this material? Did we buy this material? Can we justify using this material in the public interest? And the answers here were, no, we didn't steal it. It was given by a source to the head of the ICIJ, Gerard Ryle. No, we didn't buy it. No money changed hands in this exercise. ICIJ shared it willingly with us. It was clear to us that this material had been taken illicitly, if you like, that somebody who had no right to the material had purloined it, had stolen it, if you like, because it originally belonged to the internal files of these companies. Was that a problem for us ethically? No, I don't think so, because the question we ask ourselves as journalists is not how was this material obtained? The question we ask ourselves is it in the public interest to publish this material and to make it known to everybody? And the answer to that was unquestionably yes, because these companies, they make their money out of selling secrecy, and we think the secrecy is something that ought to be exposed. I was very pleased with the immediate political impact of these exposures. In Britain, we had politicians and former diplomats, people like that, saying what's gone on in the British Virgin Islands is a stain on Britain, and the Prime Minister, David Cameron, will have to do something about this when he heads the G8, which is happening later this year, and Britain is the chairman. There was quite a chorus of politicians from all over Europe, certainly, saying something must be done, that this secrecy is illegitimate. So I was actually very pleased with the response we got. And part of the reason why we got that political response, I think, was because we published simultaneously in so many different countries in Europe, certainly. And that meant that political pressure came from all directions at once. There is still a great deal of work to do on this extraordinary database. We believe that there are thousands and thousands of names, perhaps of government officials, particularly in East Asia, that are still in there that need to be dug out. And in the months to come, ICIJ will be doing more work.